Golden City.
Hello and welcome to part 3 of this hip hop tips and tricks tutorial video. In the first part we looked at the groove, which is the drums and the bass. In the second part we looked at some sample tricks and ideas, and in this part we're going to go through the arrangement and actually putting it all together into a track that kind of makes sense. Now hip hop gives you more freedom than a lot of genres to kind of switch up section by section, change your ideas halfway through. The only real rule you have to follow is, does it keep grooving, does it keep rolling, does it kind of make sense, does it keep people's interest, I guess. Now having said that though, there's a few things that you can kind of think about with the arrangement, a few pointers that I want to give you that will kind of help you gain a bit of direction when you're trying to arrange all of your different bits into a track that actually makes sense. So it's good to try and have a bit of a sort of A-B alternation going on, by which I mean having sort of two different sections that go back and forth. So I've done that in this, in the first part of this track. So I've got an intro here, which can be really as long as you like it to be, but as soon as it kicks in at bar 8, we've got, bar 5, we've got an 8-bar section here, which is going to be called section A, and then it goes into another 8-bar called section B, and then it goes back to a slightly altered version of section A again. So let's have a quick listen to that before I talk about it a bit.
We can attack the city.
Okay, great. So as you can hear, it goes section A, section B, section A again, and this kind of cements the vibraphone, the main vibraphone melody, as being like the lead idea. So by the time you come back to section A, it's already feeling like familiar, like you kind of know where you are, it's like familiar territory. And you want to kind of keep that going throughout the track as much as you can. Now, after it returns to section A for the second time, I wanted to kind of take the track somewhere else for a little while, just because I could. I mean, why not? So in terms of musical content, I tried to find something which is a nice kind of modulation, a nice change from the previous stuff that we've been hearing from both section A and section B. Now, still, I'm kind of asking, does it keep grooving? Does it keep like moving forward? Does it maintain that energy that we really want? But I went and specifically picked out something that was sort of orchestrated quite differently, had quite a different mood. Like all the previous sections have been quite kind of upbeat. I wanted to get something that was a bit maybe more, bit darker, but also texturally like something that's a bit fuller as well. So let's just hear what that sounds like. So as you can see here, we've got a guitar sample, got tubular bell sample, and a piano sample. Now, and all these are locked together harmonically and to a certain extent rhythmically as well. So we get this really kind of rich texture that we haven't had previously, and we kind of don't really get again throughout the track. Makes it a nice breakdown because you get that really nice sort of change. And as you can see from my arrangement here, which if I just drag this loop out, I'll show you that's pretty much how long the track is. You can see it's pretty much kind of dead in the middle as well. So it's a nice sort of switch up, a nice change of tone, change of mood, that kind of thing. But hip hop being what it is, I had quite a lot of freedom to just pretty much pick what I wanted, change key drastically, do whatever I like, basically. And as long as it keeps the energy going and as long as it keeps the track moving forward, then it is all good. Now after this section it kind of moves into a breakdown where I strip out the bass, wanted to kind of make it feel a bit lighter, like it's sort of waiting to move on to somewhere else. I talked a bit in the previous video about how I layered a couple of sounds we'd already heard together to just sort of create a bit more of a wash and a texture. But what we've basically got here is 8 bars of breakdown. Now I wanted to kind of do something that was a little bit kind of lighter, a bit cheeky there, just sort of lift the mood up before going into the final section where I've created a slightly darker and more imposing version of what we were hearing right at the start. So I've also purposefully left the drums a little bit looser as well, sort of just generally tried to leave it lighter. And then finally it's going to go back into a altered version of section A, where I've added an extra Fender Rhodes sample underneath to make it feel a little bit more spooky, a little bit more creepy, but added in a few extra samples and bits, but the core idea is essentially the same. And the idea for that is that you feel like you're returning back to section A, which was the first thing that we properly heard over here. And it makes the track feel like you've come full circle, like it's got some nice consistency. Even though we deviated from the core idea in this central section, we kind of return back home, and it makes it feel like the whole track kind of makes sense. So I'll just play this breakdown into the end.
Cannot kill her yet.
She's a princess of the Golden City.
And then that just loops again to close. So that gives it a nice kind of sensation of familiarity when you get to this final end section. You kind of want to tap into that, you kind of want to end with something that people recognise, I think. And then obviously you have the freedom to do whatever you like with the outro. I've just chucked a couple of little samples at the end, but you could make that a much longer, more drawn out affair if you want. Now this track clocks in at just over 3 minutes. You can see the marker at the bottom here says 3, so it's just a little bit over that. Personally I find that's quite a good length for a hip hop sort of instrumental track, but really there's no hard and fast rules with this genre. You find tracks that are like less than a minute, you find tracks that are 7 or 8, 9 minute jams as well, so you really got to go with the flow. But if you're struggling to kind of arrange your tracks so they sound convincing and people don't get lost, I think 3 minutes is kind of a good one to aim for. You've got the space to explore a few different ideas, to have a bit of a breakdown and break away from where you're at and then kind of return to it again. So maybe start off with that, but like I said, there's no hard and fast rules, so if you want to completely ignore that, then you're totally at liberty to do so. So that concludes the third part of this 3-part tutorial titled Hip Hop Tips and Tricks, where I've been using the Shaolin Beats sample pack, which is available now on the Prime Loop site, so make sure you go and grab a copy of that if you haven't already. All the sounds are from there, and it's great. There's loads more in there that I haven't used as well. If you haven't checked out the other two videos, then make sure you go back and do that, because there's a lot of other useful information which goes into more of the specifics of how I'm using certain sounds and designing the drums and basses and all the rest of it. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.